Chairman, thank you. Secretary General, in my view, my view of the Army Transformation Initiative is undetermined. I don't think we know enough as to whether we can say we agree with you. The things you've outlined today and in the past are certainly things that matter. Getting us in a supply chain circumstance in which we can meet today's needs using today's technologies. One of the things that troubles me is that we don't yet know how you are going to spend the money that we've been talking among my colleagues, at least this morning, been talking about things that apparently may not be funded, but we don't yet know how you're going to fund. And maybe that's solved in the next 10 days in response to, your response suggests so, that that's the case. But it's hard for me to say we're on the right path because I don't know what path we're on. I hear what we're going to do to reduce. I don't yet know what we're going to do to spend. So I would tell you that a thing that I think is a fallacy that the plan seems to be based on, and I can presume I can be convinced to be wrong once I have more information, but the concept behind the plan seemed to be that we're going to be focused on China. And I'm all for focusing on China. They are our pacing challenge. But it seems to be that the belief is that we can do so while focusing significantly less, almost not at all, on the rest of the world. And I don't think we can have a plan that's based upon a particular theater when the Army has to be, our Defense Department has to be focused on the globe. And the conversations we've had this morning, Senator Graham outlining the challenges we face. I don't know that he said China, maybe he did, but he certainly talked about the Middle East and he talked about Ukraine. And I want to make sure that as the Army transitions to something, it doesn't make the decision that we're only focused on China. I happen to believe that focusing on the Middle East, focusing on Europe, focusing on NATO, focusing on Ukraine has a consequence in China or to China, to the South Pacific. And so as the Army develops its transformation program, as it explains it to us, I need reassurance that we're not solely focused or not only is perhaps too strong of a word because you can tell me we're not that, but that we've not forgotten that the rest of the world matters to the United States of America, and we want the rest of the world to know that. Mr. Secretary?
Senator, and I'll hand it to my Ranger buddy in a second, but we oftentimes, General George and I talk about in a lot of settings, any human being that believes that they have been able to predict the future current events since the dawn of man has oftentimes and probably most times been wrong. What we hope you see in 10 days as we explain our changes and the recycling of this $48 billion, this was not intended to be simply a cost-cutting exercise. Every dollar is intended to help us innovate and move forward to face threats around the world. What we believe Army transformation does is, in our Title X authorities to man, train, and equip the United States Army, we want that Army to be able to fight in any theater, anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. And so what we believe it does is it starts to pull us from where we are over-indexed on these slower, more exquisite systems that just cannot achieve that goal in a lot of locations around the world, and pull us to this more digitally enabled software manifesting in the world as these new hardware systems surrounded by drones and autonomy and all of these things. Like, what we believe is that solution set is binarily required for combat anywhere, not just in the Indo-PACOM.
Before going to Secretary George, I want to ask a couple other questions before my time expires. I don't believe that ATI is fully accounted for in the Army's budget, certainly not what we've seen to date. And I just would highlight, if it's not, how can you expect us, if it's not or will not be, how can you expect it to provide us a budget that this committee can support? And if it does, everything that I see appears to be a flat request for funding and not a growth. And I don't think we can transform the Army without additional resources. And more importantly, I don't think our country is safe without additional resources. I want to highlight, and I visited briefly with both of you, Secretary Driscoll, I was with you at Huntsville. We talked about FLORA and its advancing production so that there's not a gap of several years between prototyping and in production. And General George, I talked to you about this in Kansas, and it seems to me that you're on the path of trying to accomplish that goal, but I can't find any place in which money is designated to fund production during that gap, neither in the reconciliation language or in the budget details that the few details that we've seen to date. Can you assure me that someplace in that budget or in that request are those dollars?
You should see in the budget when you get the details soon.
Okay. And I want to thank you, Secretary, for your efforts and my consistent effort to try to get people hired, the Army Corps of Engineers at a Army Corps of Engineer Lake in Kansas. I thank you for your attention to this detail, and I look forward to some good news at which the Army Corps of Engineers has actually hired someone now that you have lifted the hiring freeze. So thank you. And in that regard, I'm planning to introduce legislation that would expand the use of IGSAs, local and state governments, to conduct business for construction and engineering with entities, private entities that are outside the Army Corps of Engineers. This bill would expand the kind of funds which can be used in inter-support agreements, enable the Army to utilize construction options aside from the Army Corps of Engineers, saving time and money. And when this legislation is introduced, I'd like for you to see it and hopefully have your support. We've seen this in few instances in the country in which we can save money and time by dealing with a local entity rather than the Army Corps of Engineers to engineer these projects. Mr. Secretary?
We'd love to look at that and work with your office on it.
Thank you, sir. General?
I wanted to go back to your point on, what we're doing for transformation. What we had in mind from the beginning, and I mentioned the Army warfighting concept, is that we would actually look at how, I think what we're talking about, being more mobile, lower signature, increasing the number of drones, counter UAS, EW, all the things that we're seeing on the modern battlefield are going to work everywhere around the globe, and that's really what we're focused on. Same with other kind of systems, and we're also trying to bring, just like you mentioned, the MV-75, and bring some of these other systems, bring them forward, because we know that they're going to increase our lethality on the battlefield, and that's really where we're focused.
My encouragement would be that the Army needs to talk about its global responsibilities, not just its concern in the Pacific. Thank you.